Hi, my name is Debra R. Richardson of Debra R. Richardson LLC, and I work with you to help you clean up your vendor data, clean up your vendor processes, and pay the right vendor. This week's Vendor Master File tip of the week is vendor supporting documentation to keep and why. So hopefully you have a vendor process where you know exactly what you need to collect based on the vendor type, whether it's a new vendor add or an existing vendor change. Now let's go over what information you need to store. Now the first thing is just all inclusive, all documentation with vendor information on it. So if you ask for the IRS W-8 or W-9, keep that. The company branded ACH form if banking is involved, the invoice or a contract if the remit address is different, anything that is received that you or your team member used to create that vendor or update that vendor record. Now you do want to store it on the vendor record or in a secure drive that limits access to who has access to it, and that's because it can include sensitive data. But you also need to store, in addition to all the supporting documentation you received, you also need to store proof of validations. So if you did the IRS 10 match on irs.gov or 10 check, take a screenshot. The OFAC check, same thing. If you are a government entity, the System of Award Management or SAM exclusion list, take a screenshot of that confirmation where there were no results when you search by the vendor name. And the same if you're a healthcare entity and you need to check against the Office of Inspector General or OIG. Take a screenshot of all of your validation results. Now you may be wondering why. You probably guessed one reason, but I actually have two reasons. The first one is that it will enable you to include in your vendor process audit to look for validations, ensuring that all team members will perform them. If you are not familiar with the vendor audit process, I will link to an earlier vendor master file tip of the week at the end of this video where I explain that process. The second reason is if you are using compensating controls, maybe if you have a segregation of duties issue or you just want more oversight to reduce fraudulent payments, it will make the process of management reviewing vendor adds and or changes, which is a compensating control, it'll make that process easier because the supporting documentation for the vendor add or change as well as proof of the validations can now be part of that review. So if you'd like more information on how to combat fraud, please go to my website, debrarrichardson.com, for free tools and resources to avoid fraud, regulatory fines, and bad vendor data. Good luck, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified next Tuesday for the next Vendor Master File tip of the week.